how appropriate the music is today, Kyle. And you'll know even more when we get done chatting a little bit and Kyle does the offertory song. Today, in the visioning and intention mode, I wanted to share a little bit about change. The title of the talk today is Fear Not Death, Experiences in Life After Life. And I'm going to share some of my experiences today. I'm actually going to go out into the congregation and see if a few people also might want to share their experience briefly with this. But to set the tone for me and my experience as a spiritual educator over the decades, there's an overriding truth that kind of governs where we're sitting today and what we're doing today, what that statement, I am an aspect of divinity, is all about today, and that is that I am a soul. I don't have a soul or a spirit. I am a soul. I have a physical body that holds me here on planet Earth so that I can learn and grow and experience the great lessons that this amazing school has to offer. So this just serves as an anchor to hold me here. And all of the experiences that I have throughout my lifetime are a part of the fabric of what makes me who I am and what I carry with me. If you believe that there is no death, that you return to God or the Father, or that you're just pure energy, science says that everything in the universe is energy. If you believe that we're an aspect of energy, and that when you pass, all you're doing is returning to that greater energy, it means that there is no death. And so within that, what is it that I take with me? If I'm not dying really, what am I expanding in? What am I taking with me into that universe or back to God? So for me, all of the experiences that I have are part of my evolution as that soul or that spirit. And as I get better and better at that, I become more at one and become more and more divine-like, and that becomes a lifestyle for me. A part of my experience and my belief is that because planet Earth is a great school, a soul or a life force can experience it many, many times. So the idea of reincarnation, those types of things for me are reality. I've preached that for a long time. When our daughter Catherine was 4 years old, she walks up to Susan and she says, "Mom, do you remember when I was your mom and you were my baby?" And even then you go, wow, the amazingness, out of the mouths of babes comes amazing wisdom. So it's been a part of our lifestyle to feel and think like that. Whatever you believe in all of that, whatever you believe you come from and where you're going, the key element to that is that placing value on what I experience every day is what makes this life so powerful. It empowers me to become better, to grow and expand more. And that includes some of those tough times. How many of you had tough times before? Everybody here? Everybody raised their hand. Right. So have you learned from those experiences? Has that helped you become better the next day to that other loved one, to that workplace, and so on? A long time ago, I was in an office setting, and there was a particular woman there that she not only had challenges with me, she had challenges with everyone. And there were a lot of tensions that would happen, and we could all get caught up in that at different times. And one day, the head of our programs and one of my mentors called me up personally, and he asked me what was going on. And I told him what my perspective was. He says, "Look," he says, "Paul, I know that this is not your fault. I know that person. I know what's happening. But here's my question for you. Why are you attracting that? What's happening for you? Where's the lesson for you in that experience that you're having?" And it was a very powerful moment because I had to kind of step back and be honest with myself about what kinds of feelings that I was having. Where was the confrontation inside of me still? Where was I fighting things inside? And once I began to relax with that, it was amazing what happened to the relationship with that woman. All of a sudden, things settled down. She was still who she was, and I was still, but things settled a little bit. They relaxed a little bit because I had taken responsibility for my own energy in terms of what was happening outside of me. There's that old cliche that when you point your finger, look where the other three fingers are pointing. So how do I take responsibility for what's going on there? So one of the great things that we all fear is the fear of death. Do any of you have that? Can you honestly say that you might have that a little bit? Let's kind of reposition that a little bit. The fear of death is really all about the fear of separation. It's the fear of the unknown, that I'm not clear on what's taking place. I'm not clear on what's happening. Does that make sense? And you can really base all fears on that. If I'm afraid that Brian's not going to accept me, there's a little separation there between the two of us. That fear of that energy is happening. And one of the great aspects of that is the fear of change. The fear of not letting go of the past, of holding on to it. Every day, we actually create a miniature divorce in our lives because we go from one day and then we go to the next day. Right? How many of us still hold on to the day before and we don't really find the value in the current day? And because we're not finding the value in the current day, we set ourselves up to not have any comprehension or awareness of what the future might be because we're still living way back here in the past. So the one thing that I know that people can count on and that we can all count on is that things are going to change. There is going to be death in our energy. We're going to let go of things. We're going to let go of the business, the job that no longer fulfills us. Have any of you done that? You've changed because it was no longer good for you, it was no longer clear for you. We're going to let go of concepts or habits that no longer work for us. Just like, oh, the alarm is ringing, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna stay awake. Right? It's easy. It's easy to keep ourselves where we are. It's comfortable sometimes. Again, one of my mentors said one time in a workshop, he says, we're here to make the comfortable uncomfortable and the uncomfortable comfortable. Help everybody balance. Help everybody find that even keel for themselves. So life will change. So right at this moment, what is it that I'm holding on to? What is it that you're holding on to still that won't allow you to go this way, won't allow you to move forward? Can anybody identify that? Is that hard to acknowledge that? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's hard to let go of those habits because, again, we're not clear on where we're going, which goes back to the theme for the month. Vision, and intention. Vision and intention. What do I want? What do I really, 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 really want? And I know it's a cliche and goal setting and so on, but if I had all the money, all the resources, all the available time in the world to me, what would I want? Not how much money do I have in the bank, therefore that tells me what I can want or not want. It's what do I really want? And all the people that do programs here that talk about intention, the laws of attraction, and so on will tell you that's the first place to start. Because if I acknowledge that, it's amazing what divinity, what the universe will open up if I just say what I want. Part of what happens when I'm doing that is I'm now pointing myself into the mainstream of my energy in that universe. If I'm not acknowledging that, I'm off kilter here a little bit. They said that the rocket ships that went to the moon, 97% of the time they were off course. Imagine that, 97% of the time. But they had the instruments, they had the ability to adjust that constantly. So in creating change and in creating that intention that's powerful, I need to constantly stay on track with that. I need to constantly adjust to that. But I have that target. I have that goal of what I want. So what does that have to do with fear not death? It's fear not the change. Fear not creating that vision. Fear not creating that intention. Have any of you had a goal you set for yourself and you get involved in, you go, oh my God, what did I get myself involved in? Well, what happened? Oh, I didn't know. I didn't think I asked for that. So be specific, be clear about what it is that I want, what it is that I need, and that helps create new life. So that leads me to experiences about the power of change and the power of death. Susan and I have had innumerable experiences with that in our lives. My father passed on when I was 15 years old. It's very unexpected. He was 50. They said it was a heart attack. Could have been a brain aneurysm. We're not sure about that. I did not grieve for him at that moment because when I was standing in the room, right at the edge of the room, and there was his body in the bed after the paramedics left, I looked at him and I could not feel him there. There was nothing there except for this body lying in the bed. And I turned to my mother, and 15 years, I said, that's not my father. And I walked out. Later on, throughout the coming weeks, we sensed him around. My mother was having dreams that he was trying to counsel her on how to help the family and release his own guilt for leaving the family, kind of, quote, in the lurch of, single mother, not working just yet with 4 kids and so on. The dog that we had that my father had raised from a puppy. One night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and the dog was barking. And he was sitting in front of my father's favorite reading chair, just barking at the chair. And I went around, checked the doors and so on, and everything is fine. Sat down with him, started panicking, and felt that soul that was there. It was the first time after having read about it that I had an experience of something beyond just the physical world. Something was telling me that there's a bigger picture here, that there is no death. After our 2 daughters were born, Susan was pregnant again with our 3rd little boy. He was very sickly early on, had pneumonia in his first week. About a year after that, he passed on from chicken pox that went through the school and went into his lungs and so forth. Before that happened, it was probably a couple months before that happened, he's learning to crawl up the stairs. Now kids do, they kind of climb up, and he was holding on to the banisters as he was exercising his legs. And I was watching him, kind of just letting him be, kind of being aware. I could tell he was not going to fall, everything was fine. And he looked down through the banisters at me, and in my head, in a completely different voice, I'm very intuitive or clairaudient, I heard the words, "You have no idea what this life means to me." And then, a couple months later, he had passed on. What that meant to me was there's no difference between a life of 13 months and a life of 80 or 90 years. There's no difference. It's the soul experiencing life. And that life for that 13 months was incredibly valuable for him. A short time ago, about 3 years ago, my sister passed on from a brain aneurysm. It was very, very sudden. It was something that we didn't really have any kind of idea would happen because she was very happy. She was a very positive person, and suddenly she was gone. Now, in that setting, in that situation, it was a powerful thing for me to experience because I had to be the navigator of all of the things that were going on. The niece, my children who were in New York, we went up to Boston together to be there at the hospital. It was one of the best neurological and surgical hospitals in the country, Mass General. There was a possibility, because she had gotten CPR right away, that maybe there was some hope that she could stick around. The doctors were very reverent with us, but they were also trying to be very factual with us, that what they saw was not something that they felt like that there could be a recovery for. I felt so much power and backing from Spirit to be able to be the guidepost for all of the people, including the hospital staff, who were just going overboard to try and be of service and be of assistance in that. And I just felt a lot of light and a beacon of energy really supporting me in that. As we came to the realization that we were going to need to let Ann go, we were all down in the lower surgical area because she was an organ donor. And we were all standing around her bed. And at the time that they cut life support, we were all gently singing one of her favorite songs. And I had my eyes closed. And I suddenly had this amazing vision happening in front of me of this bright light. And I didn't even think of the go to the light kind of idea where they talk about you'll go to the light or you'll see Jesus, whatever. That wasn't even on my mind. I was just experiencing this amazing light. And my sister was traveling through this corridor of light. And what was so powerful about this was that knowing her as a sibling and knowing about her contentious divorce and all the different things that she had gone through as that human being, as a soul, having a human experience, all those experiences started to become smaller until I could not see those experiences anymore, except for, it's hard for me to describe, it was almost like little lines of energy that were with her and in her. They became the fabric of her light. They became the tapestry of what she had put together in this life that she was carrying forward with her. And it was profound because the remnants of the fear of death that I had, the not wanting to get hurt, not pain, whatever that was, all of a sudden it was gone. Because there was this beauty about that situation. There was power in that situation. And then to clinch it all, going back to the idea of reincarnation and the soul and so on, a friend of mine was down at our center driving the tractor one day, and all of a sudden out of the blue, and he called me up and told me this, he said, Ann came to him and said, tell Paul that everything's all right, and then I'm going to help our mother pass on, and then I'm going to come back. And so Roger called me up and told me that. And about 6 months later, our mother passed on. And she was a beautiful light too. Same kind of experience, same general feeling of all of that. It showed me the continuity of our relationships. It showed me the value of all of the intricate decisions and things that we make that we may have no idea about. But that there's this bigger picture that's governed by each of us and our intention and our vision for what our life is all about. And then the interconnection of all of us, the interaction of the energies of all of us in the room right now. It's amazing the complexity of what Spirit is all about. And that I can trust that. I can bank on that bigger picture. And I can allow myself to change. I can allow myself that death of that experience to move into the next life of the next experience. There is no death. There is just growth. And I can be happy about that. And I can learn from that. So what have I learned from all of that? Just to really, it makes my breath, the breath that we did in the meditation, it makes each one of them a lifetime. It makes each one of them powerful and beautiful, and I want more of it. I want to have more breaths, more experience. So if there's any kind of sense of hope for you or faith for you, that the people that have moved in and out of your life, the situations that have moved in and out of your life, take a moment and find the positive value of that. Even the troubling times. What have I learned from that? How is that helping me help people? How is that helping me to learn and grow more? What could I have done differently next time? Maybe there's something that I could have shifted. Maybe not. But if I take a look at that, that becomes even the small things priceless. It makes everything valuable and beautiful. And I want to take a moment before we wrap up here to have a couple people, and then I'm going to open this up to anybody, but to share just very compactly, just take 1 minute so we can get around to other people if need be. What have you learned from the transitions in your life? If it's a loved one, what have you learned? How's that helped you become a better individual, better mother, better father, a better coworker? And Sandy, would you be willing to share just briefly? You had something happen fairly recently.
Thanks, Paul. Friday was the second-year anniversary of my dad's transition. And for me, this was the first person that I'm really close to in my life that had happened to. So I have learned that I feel like I'm closer to my dad with him gone than I was when he was here. I know that it's really quick and easy for me to access him anytime I want to. And every time I do, it is that everything that I ever wanted him to be, our relationship to be, it's always right there. It is that pure, easy love. And that's amazing. And he shows up in a lot of different ways. And I guess the other thing that surprised me the most, I felt when he was dying that it would be a very private experience for me, and that I just kind of wanted to mourn that on my own or be with him on my own. But the people that showed up in my life really surprised me with support. Girlfriends that I hadn't talked to like since high school said, hey, I lost my dad too. It was really hard, and like a reconnector, people reaching out, and that just really touched me. It made me feel like, oh wait, this isn't just my thing. We are all connected, and life connects us, but also death and transition connects us too. So that was a real special realization for me.
Thank you, Sandy. Would anybody else like to take just a moment? Christy? Yeah, stand up.
Well, talking about connection, after my father-in-law passed, he came to me in a dream, and it was a very clear dream. And he was standing in a hospital, but he wasn't like in a hospital bed and gown. He was like dressed nicely in chino pants and a polo shirt. Actually better than he really dressed in life, but it just gave me the signal that he was okay. And another thing about the coincidence was 5 or 6 years later, when my father passed, he passed on the very same day as my father-in-law, August 26th.
Synergy in life and death. Anyone else? Yes. Take just a minute.
Thank you. My logical mind, my head has told me many times, you don't want to tell this story to people. It's too far out. They're not going to believe it. Last November, I found out the love of my life had passed away. A member of her church called me and said, you should be sitting down right now. I've got some news for you. And I says, I've been through so much in life. I've seen it all. There's nothing you can tell me that's going to shock me that much. And she said, Craig, Catherine has passed. And I said, no, you got to be kidding. Tell me you're kidding. This got to be some kind of bad joke. goes, no. Her husband found her laying on her back in her winter coat, still holding her cell phone, and the autopsy showed that her heart just stopped. Well, about a year before that, Catherine and I met at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. I had about 14 years of sobriety at that time, and Catherine had about a year, but she understood the program. She understood that she couldn't have alcohol in her life. It led to bad results. And when we hooked up, we had a fiery romance to start. There seemed to be magnetism, and we could sit with each other and not even talk and feel comfortable and relaxed. And it just seemed like a good fit. But then she told, her parents asked her, how old is Craig? How old is Craig? Come on, you got to tell us. And she goes, oh, he's blah, 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 blah. Oh my gosh, that's an 18-year difference. Catherine, if you have children with this man, when the children are 20, he's going to look like their old grandpa. You can't do this. And she felt indebted to her parents. They were wealthy. They had a nice home south of Grand, and they gave her a good education, college. And so she broke up with me, and she said, I can just be your friend. You have to understand. I'm like, what? I thought we had something going on. No. 4 months later, she married a right-wing fundamentalist Christian man to satisfy her parents' desires that she would hook up with a good man. This guy was 24 years younger than me. So he found an older woman. Anyway, here we go. Here's cutting the story short. I'm riding my motorcycle. A man was in a big hurry. He cut me off, slammed on his brakes. He had no brake lights on his old car. I wake up in Mercy Hospital looking at a cop, and he says to me, are you back? Yeah. He goes, we wouldn't be having this conversation if you weren't wearing that helmet. Your head would have smashed like an egg on the back of that car. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Well, I got out of the hospital. My friends told me that Catherine had been at the hospital every day crying over my bed, waiting for me to wake up. And when I did finally wake up, I didn't know who she was. And she became so devastated, she went back to drinking. And her spirit came to me and said, I couldn't take it without you. I drank myself to death. So, whole thing's going to court now. My lawyer's taking care of it. And I had to write a statement. I said, I would like some compensation for what I lost financially, but we can't bring Catherine back. I have to accept that she's gone. But what you said today, Catherine's still with me.
We're going to help you with some healing in just a minute with that. Thank you for sharing that. Susan, you want to share briefly about your experience?
When Aaron died, he was our third child. I remember just having to take long walks. And then I would walk every day out in our conference center in Osceola and just be out there in nature. And this yellow butterfly started flying around my head. Every day for 30 days, it would come around my head, just a yellow. And the first time, I remember it's like that voice that said, the soul is me, the soul is free. And I heard that message for 30 days. By the 30th day, you know, I would always believe that, but it was like such a healing. It was like a melody. It was like a song singing to me. And music has always been of healing nature, you know, but I've always thought about that there was truth to that. But it's like the experiences that we have, the messages that we receive. And this morning I was telling Laura, I said, I woke up and the dream I had was that all these birds were being released from cages, lots of cages. And in the Native American tradition, which my father is Abenaki, it's the sign of a messenger. Birds are signs of messengers. Messengers of spirit. So I knew today was going to be a special day. I've shared that little story. I've shared it with people in different religious groups, and I had an opportunity to help a close friend as a minister to help in the service for her mother, who believed in unlimited lives. But still, just having the experience and the heart-to-heart sharing is what makes life valuable. It brings us, it's that common core of love that is a uniting force, more powerful than any separation. And that's what I learned from my experiences.
Thank you, everybody, who took the time to share with that. I appreciate everybody who opened up and brought that message out. Final thing I want to say is we all know that we have help. Whether you call it angels or guides or the Holy Spirit or the universe or God, Christ, whatever you call that, that is also a part, for me, of the reality of life here on planet Earth and out in that universe. So just know that as you're experiencing those transitions in life, however poignant, however small they might be, you're not alone. There is help. And if you don't believe in any kind of outside spiritual force, just look around the room. You have help. There are people here. That's what the Unity Center is all about, is to be an inner sanctuary for the soul and an outer sanctuary for the fellowship. So thank you for letting me share with you today. And please make note of Kyle's song coming up, the offertory song. It's an amazing song. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. And breathe that song in. Let that be the basis for the rest of your day and the week and months to come. Thanks for letting me share.